Good evening and welcome to today's Tropics for August 23rd, 2020. Please note I'm not a meteorologist and this video is just a collection of my thoughts and opinions about the storms I'm talking about. And for any decision making, please consult National Hurricane Center or your local officials. So today I'm looking at Hurricane Marco, which is currently in the Gulf of Mexico, and Tropical Storm Laura, which is currently near the Cuban coast. So first off, let's look at Hurricane Marco, and it strengthened earlier today, and that's what got to hurricane strength now, 65 knots. That burst convection that supported that has since died off, and while there is a new one, it's less impressive, and there is some indication that it might be starting to feel some of that southwesterly shear, as it and therefore, it doesn't look like it'll really strengthen because that shear will continue to increase. However, still high winds are possible as it starts curving more westward, possibly near or on to the coast of Louisiana or southeastern Louisiana. Currently, Recon is flying inside Marco, and they're finding a much less impressive storm right now, as the convective burst has pretty much dissipated. But there is a new one, but again, it's not producing as much strong wind. However, they haven't sampled the entire storm, so it's definitely possible, especially in the northeastern quadrant, that there may be some higher winds. But it definitely seems like the pressure has gone up and the winds have gotten weaker, so it is a slowly weakening storm at the moment. It's not really too or it's a bit misleading now to see the convection over where the center is found. It is a little bit sheared, but isn't this badly sheared. So we'll have to see if it continues to get sheared, and that is the forecast. And we'll see if or how bad the impacts are as it again approaches the coast. So looking at the GFS output here, valid a little bit before I was recording. You can see the winds are generally southerly aloft over Marco, and that's not too bad, except as it starts to bend a bit more to the west, that means it might turn more southwesterly, and that means it'll get more sheared, especially as the wind increases a little. You see it's not quite in this ridge axis anymore, so again, the conditions won't be all that favorable, and you can even see the shear on the relative humidity. It's all northeast. That's partly due to shear and partly due to the troughing kind of trying to string out that moisture, but you can see down shear, and that would be the southwest. It's a bit drier, so it's going to have trouble start maintaining convection. It definitely seems like the current weakening that we are seeing from Recon will continue, and that has some track implications as to how fast it does that, because looking at the mid-level ridging here, so this is 500 millibars, a little bit in the future, so this is Monday morning, you can see this ridging kind of coming in, but you can see clearly that Marco's mid-level vorticity is definitely on the western edge, and this would continue moving north. So if Marco was steered a lot by this level, you would see it continue moving north. However, you're not seeing the same kind of steering in the entire atmosphere. Here's the low-level ridge. Actually, one thing to note, you can see that here's a low-level vorticity of Marco at this point in time. You can see that the mid-level vorticity is a bit to the northeast, so it's another sign of some of that shearing that's going on. But you can definitely see here that the ridging gets a lot further west, and instead of being on the west side of the ridge, Marco's closer to being under the ridge. It's near the western end, but not quite. So this would move it a lot more to the southeast, and as it weakens, you're going to see that happen, and it travel more to the west. It just depends on how fast it weakens coming to the coast, and little differences like modeling error in the ridges. But it does look decently high confidence that we'll see a westward bend as it gets weaker and gets steered by these levels, which are more easterly flow than northerly. And here's the official National Hurricane Center forecast for Marco. One thing to note is that it's actually tracking a bit east of what was forecast uh, uh, at the 5 p.m. advisor or 4 p.m. CDT advisory, and it actually tracked a bit more to the north-northeast. So that means there might be a bit of a leftward error here in the cone. So it might have to be shifted a bit more north. However, you can see that pretty well-defined curve as it turns more to the east and possibly even parallels coast. Again, it seems it might go a bit more inland than that. And there are warnings here, hurricane warnings, for those types of warnings here. So definitely some high wind will be a threat and will cause storm surge that I'll get to in a minute. At the same time, although it's a, or even though it's a smallish, not very slow storm, you are going to have some heavy rain, especially to the right of the storm, because again, as it travels over here, you're going to have some southwesterly shear, and that is going to enhance rain to the northeast, and that would cause heavier rain in these areas, and also in almost unrelated areas further north as a result of the troughing itself, and not really Marco. But definitely heavy rain, some possibly high wind, and also storm surge may be some of it, or a bit of an issue as Marco heads into this area. And it looks like near between mouth of Mississippi and Morgan City in Louisiana, definitely it looks like as you get in that onshore flow as it comes near the coast. Uh, this may change depending on where it comes in, but it looks like there could be 4 to 6 feet of surge. And also, as you have easterly winds potentially in this region, you're going to have water piling up in this concave area, and that's where you tend to have a lot of surge piling up, and also some in Lake Pontchartrain. And this will actually continue for a little bit. You don't have the surge instantly going away once the storm is gone. So, especially in the higher surge areas, you might have a couple feet left over as Laura heads into the area. It's a bit more uncertain as to exactly where it will come in, but you might see extra surge depending on where Laura comes in as a result of Marco. Take a look at Tropical Storm Laura too. It is not. It doesn't quite have as good outflow as it did yesterday. In fact, the center is a bit inland over Cuba here, so you're seeing some of that some of that northerly shear, and it seems to be or have gotten a bit stronger. So it is a bit lopsided, and there are a lot of uncertainties in the forecast, and these will be ironed out in the next couple days. One of which is what kind of landing direction does it have? Because as we know, if it goes over Cuba for longer, it'll probably have to wait until it's in the Gulf of Mexico to start organizing and intensifying. But if it is able to go a bit more south, then that's still a possibility given all the convection of the south, which might try to bring the low-level center to the south as a result of convergence here, and mid-level center trying to kind of getting sucked into there. So you might see some slight southward adjustments, especially if this is more of a mesoscale low, which is possible because the mid-level center and the low-level center aren't quite aligned with each other. So that can mean you have either kind of moving around unexpectedly. So it's not totally organized, but it's getting better organized. And we'll definitely have to see what it does near over Cuba to see what it ends up doing later in the Gulf. So looking at radar here from Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, you can see the center, or at least one of them, moved inland earlier and is now tracking to the west-northwest. And since then, it's become a lot more ill-defined. It's not quite easy to tell why, because it could be getting less defined, especially with the mountainous areas on the south coast of Cuba, which would definitely disrupt a circulation like this. But at the same time, it's also moving quite far from the radar site, so it's around, say, like 75 nautical miles or so. And as a result, the beam height gets a lot higher, so it's a lot harder to see the low-level features, and even some of the mid-level features as you get really far away. For example, just a little large pixel sizes, and definitely looks like could be partially radar quirk. I'll have to see though, given if it is our actual main low, then this suggests a bit more land interaction, which would delay the organization. But at the same time, there's a lot of convection to the south, and the alignment with the mid-level center isn't quite there. So it could go a bit more south as it rotates around the mid-level low. Uh, uh, we'll have to see what happens about that, though, given it's not totally organized, and land interaction definitely makes the picture a bit more muddy. Curiously, one of the reasons why Laura is going south of what it was expected to earlier could actually be Hurricane Marco, in fact, as a lot of the modeling had it pretty weak, and as a result, didn't have as much outflow into this ridge, which is actually ending up affecting Laura. So a stronger Marco means that it's able to amplify this upper level high pressure here, and that affects Laura in a few ways. One of which is it imparts a bit more northeasterly winds aloft onto Laura, and it's a bit harder to see here because you do see the outflow trying to counteract that, but it is getting pushed to the southwest by that northeasterly shear here. And given that Laura itself is moving at a decent clip to the west northwest or so, that means it's more northerly shear that gets onto it. So you're seeing center closer up to here or so, and convection a lot further south. So that it argues for actually continued southward movement, and that would definitely not be a very good thing, as if it does trend even a little more south, then it would be able to go over the water here and possibly organize in the northwestern Caribbean, and then continue to strengthen in the very favorable Gulf of Mexico. Actually, this upper level high from the trough and Marco is related. This is going to retrograde into the Gulf of Mexico and pretty much park itself overhead of Laura once it's there. So that will give it a pretty much ideal ideal upper air pattern. Aside from uncertainties about how Laura interacts with a Cuban island, there's also another bit of uncertainty, and that's because there is a large difference in flow between the level or different levels of the atmosphere as Laura gets into the Gulf of Mexico. And what you have here is a bit different than you usually do, and that is the weakest ridge is at the lower levels, but you have a much stronger ridge at the upper levels. So, in fact, you have a storm that is stronger moving further south than a weaker storm, and you can see here the tab suite. You see a weaker storm turns more to the north and would impact regions further west, and that's because of weaker ridging. But you see a deeper system feels that upper ridging that's stronger and generally more out of the east, and that would make it a bit more south. The National Hurricane Center track forecast is actually pretty close to the tab medium, so that's a medium strength tropical cyclone. So if it does try to get organized quicker than possibly thought, and given that it strengthened as it came out in this region, if it does strengthen, which is definitely possible, you'd also would expect maybe a bit of a westward move or trend in the cone, unless there is another trend in the ridging. Once it actually gets in the open water of the Gulf, Laura pretty much again has a pretty much ideal upper air conditions early Wednesday morning, for example, here, and that's because you have dual upper low pressures northeast or northwest and to the southeast of Laura, and what that's allowing is a poleward outflow jet here and an equatorward one here, and that you tend to see that in very strong cyclones because this evacuates a lot of air out of the cyclone. And if you have that happening, there's less air over you in the middle of the cyclone where you have this favorable outflow and low shear. And if you have this extra air evacuating here, there's less air above you in the center of the cyclone, and thus you have lower pressure, and thus you have an intensifying cyclone. So this is a very favorable looking upper air pattern. So uh, it's very, very likely that there will be intensification in the Gulf, or at least organization. At the same time, too, the environment is relatively moist. You can see even surrounding the cyclone, there isn't really a whole lot of dry air too close to it, so it's also not going to have a lot of dry air problems. In fact, actually, as it gets into the Eastern Gulf, you might see some inflow from the Caribbean too. So moist, definitely looking moist and low shear with those dual outflow jets. So it is a very favorable look as it's in the Central Gulf. Bit later on Wednesday morning, you can see why the National Hurricane Center has it tracking a bit more to the north, and that is because it'll be approaching the western end of the mid-level high pressure as long as it's around the strength that National Hurricane Center predicts. And as a result, it starts turning more northwest and eventually north. Again, this is pretty uncertain though because there is stronger ridging that doesn't really end off here with the troughing. And definitely if you see a stronger storm, it'll trend probably a bit more south in where it tries to make landfall, and the weaker ridging to the or in the low levels will mean likely you're going to see a weaker system move a bit more to the east. Once Laura actually gets near the Gulf Coast, it looks like it might suffer from a little bit of shear. This isn't too uncommon, especially if storms like that start getting picked up by troughs, because there's this upper low here, and it's this similar type of conditions that are favoring it once it is in Central Gulf, except now the upper level high pressure is a bit to the southeast, and as a result, you're going to get, or it's modeled here on Thursday morning to get some westerly winds aloft, and as it travels more kind of like this, you're going to have a lot of westerly shear, which could disrupt this circulation or disrupt the structure of the storm as it gets into the coast. So hopefully that does happen because you don't want to have a continually strengthening system hitting the coast. That is possible, but maybe there is something that could stop it from being too strong as it hits the coast. In the shorter term, impacts in Haiti are starting to end, but there will likely be some continued high winds associated with Laura and heavy rain from its convection over a lot of Cuba, and possibly high winds for northeastern northeastern Cayman Islands. So that in the short term, you'll see these areas and possibly Florida Keys, depending on the size of the storm, getting some of those impacts in the short term. As for the Gulf Coast, there's a lot of uncertainty again. So if you're even if you're outside the cone, say even as far east as the Mississippi coastline, or as far west as the central Texas coastline, definitely be prepared for a storm to come in. Keep a very, very wary eye on Laura, because depending on where it goes, you could see a relatively significant, possibly major hurricane. It's not explicitly forecast here, but it is possible that we'll have major hurricane in the Gulf tracking towards land. So definitely be prepared, and again, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That's about all to talk about tonight. If you have any questions, comments about my video, please let me know, and thanks for watching.